Welcome to the Wonderlands! Tiny Tina's tabletop extravaganza kicks off on March 25th on the Xbox One, Series X and S. And while your fate will largely be decided by dice rolls and Dungeon Master whims, you might fare a little better if you've brushed up on the game's classes, characters, and customization options. So here's everything you need to know.
Unlike previous Borderlands games where you select between a choice of pre-made Vault Hunters, Tiny Tina's Wonderlands allowed you to craft your very own hero to play the role of Fate Maker. You can get pretty creative too. Since this is a fantastical game being played by the denizens of a dystopian future, you can get kinda weird, adding animal appendages and shark fins, or even going full goblin mode by making your Fate Maker an orc. Much like in Borderlands, there are quick change kiosks littered throughout the game, so you can also totally revamp your character's appearance later on if you have a change of heart. So, go wild. And yes, we know goblins and orcs are different things, pipe down.
The options extend beyond the character's physical appearance too, with a range of voices available and 4 different personality types to pick between, named Gallant, Clever, Gruff, and Strange. I got my eye on Strange. Your personality type will affect how your character responds to Tina's shenanigans, the things you encounter out in the world, and the dialogue you'll hear along the way. Importantly, none of these customization options will affect your abilities in the game either, so you can let your freak flag fly without being disadvantaged when the difficulty level starts to climb. And I do mean that kind of literally. You get to design your very own banner, which will fly behind you whenever you emote to add an extra hero-y grandeur to your big moments. If graphic design is indeed your passion, you'll be right at home here, selecting the shapes, patterns, icons, and colours that best represent your cause.
Since this is a role-playing game, the first thing you'll need to decide is what role you want to play. And fortunately, Tiny Tina's Wonderlands comes with a range of classes for you to choose, all with that distinctive Borderlands flavour. The BRR-Zerker, or BRR-Zerker if you're extra chilly, are frost-infused bruisers who are ideal for players who like to get up close and personal before giving their enemies the cold shoulder. These melee specialists deal frost damage, which can afflict the enemy with the slowed side effect and potentially even freeze them solid. They also come with a pair of action skills that are great for diving headfirst into the fray. Feral Surge launches you towards a target from afar, landing with an explosion of frost damage, while Deadwind gives you a spin attack that could make Crash Bandicoot jealous. But if that all sounds a bit cold-blooded, the Clawbringer's heroic fighting style is sure to thaw your heart. These noble warriors are rumoured to be descendants of the dragons themselves, and they certainly seem to have inherited a way with fire damage. They've also got a spectral hammer which you can toss at enemies to deal lightning damage, or slam into the ground to create a massive fire nova. And since they're such good-hearted fellows, they'll also imbue the rest of the party with a fire damage boost. If you find yourself drawn to the dark side, then the Graveborn's unwholesome talents are sure to appeal to you. These sadomasochistic scrappers are able to carve off a portion of their own health bar to inflict pain on their enemies using an action skill called Dire Sacrifice. But at least your magical sad boy won't have to suffer alone, as every Graveborn comes with their very own demi-lich NPC companion to help them out in battle. And afterwards, you could go off and listen to the Smiths records together, or whatever. We got our hands on Wonderlands and tried out this class, as well as the Stabbomancer actually, which you can find in the top right hand corner to watch after this.
A Spellshot is basically like if you mixed a wizard with a cowboy, and every bit as awesome as that sounds. This is the ideal class for players who want to fight from afar, bombarding the enemy with incantations, spells, and good old-fashioned hot lead. Best of all, they have an action skill called Polymorph, which turns the enemy into a harmless little furry creature called a Skeep. So you can humiliate your rivals before you shoot them to pieces and take their stuff. While the character in the purple cowboy hat is always going to take centre stage, the Spore Warden is great for those who prefer to lurk around the edges. Quick on their feet and good with a bow, they can poke at the enemy from afar with their arcane arrows and slow their advance with powerful frost tornadoes, all while providing a stat boost to their allies. But if looking after everyone else sounds like all work and barely any play, then don't worry. The Spore Warden also comes with a cute little mushroom companion, and we've heard they're a real fun guy. Finally, we've got the Stabbomancer, and yes, they like to stab things a lot. And they're also pretty good with it, with a natural inclination towards critical hits thanks to their dirty fighting class feat and the ability to turn invisible so they can catch the enemy unaware. The Stabbomancer is also a great class choice if you haven't really decided how you want to play, since they're good with melee weapons, guns, and spells. So if you would describe yourself as sneaky, backstabbing, and indecisive, then this is definitely the choice for you. Maybe choose a few different words for your dating profile though. However, if you just cannot pick between all these incredible classes, then do not panic, my friends. At a certain point in the game, you'll have the chance to assign yourself a secondary class as well, opening up a whole world of crazy mix and match options.
While Tiny Tina's Wonderlands might have taken things in a tabletop direction, this is still a Borderlands game through and through. So there will be plenty of looting opportunities for you to snag your character some new gear and further put your own personal stamp on them. Since we've gone all fantastical, you'll find enemies dropping spells alongside the usual gear when they die, and these can be equipped by the Fatemaker no matter what class you've gone for. So you can still huck fireballs even if you're a Berserker, for example. As in the main games, the weapons and equipment you find ranges in rarity from common to legendary, with a handy color code to make sure you don't accidentally throw out something precious. A lot of the gear you find will also be tied to one of the game's 5 elemental categories: frost, fire, lightning, poison, and dark magic.
As well as the many weapons on offer, you'll also be able to collect wards, which provide you with a magical shield for extra protection. Different wards have different capacities, recharge speeds, and other fun bonuses like traditional Borderlands, so it's definitely worth experimenting here too. Then there are rings and amulets, which add all sorts of buffs and effects to your build. From straightforward stat boosts to fun new tricks like the ability to reload through melee attacks, these magical jewels can really give you the edge when you're taking on the game's more fiendish foes. In Tiny Tina's Wonderland, as in life, there are few things as important as knowing how to accessorize.
You can't expect to go on this sort of fantastical adventure alone, and fortunately, Tiny Tina's Wonderlands comes with a stacked cast of hilarious weirdos to accompany you. The whole game is, of course, being dreamt up by the titular Tiny Tina, an amped-up ammunition-obsessed adolescent who is always happy to receive guests, so long as they agree to do a bit of tabletop role-playing with her. Valentine is one such soul, although fortunately he's also a big fan of fantasy gaming since it allows him to play the role he believes he was born for, the dashing rogue. Not everyone is as convinced of his credentials, but he's sure to add some flair to your party, along with some highly questionable decision making. Frette is an office accounting bot who winds up playing Tina's game after an incident involving Valentine left her place of employment bankrupt and somewhat on fire. The pair, voiced by comedy stars Andy Samberg and Wanda Sykes, will accompany you on your quest to take down the Dragon Lord, the ultimate big bad of Tina's imagination who is forever trying to conquer the Wonderlands. Voiced by BoJack Horseman and Job Bluth himself, Will Arnett, we're sure the Dragon Lord will have plenty to say for himself during his latest evil conquest.
And speaking of horse people, keeping the Dragon Lord at bay is a magical diamond two-horned unicorn named, you know it by now, it's Splat Stallion. Longtime fans may remember that this was also the name of the diamond pony purchased by Handsome Jack in the second Borderlands game. So while the series might be crude and kind of silly, it certainly is consistent, we'll give him that. You'll encounter plenty of other weird and wonderful characters as you wander the Borderlands, including a few other familiar faces, like Torque, head of the company who manufactured so many of the weapons you've spent previous Borderlands games blasting folks to pieces with. He's into loots now, though. Finally, the Wonderlands will continue on into April if you picked up either the Season Pass or the Chaotic Great editions of the game, starting with the tremendously purple, might I add, Mirrors of Mystery DLC. New worlds, new bosses, new loot, even a new class, and new, well, whatever these are. Gingerbread skeletons? Who knows? Whatever. They are part of a DLC campaign that is adding to the lunacy of the Wonderlands when it drops on the 21st of April. Whack that in your calendar.
Of course, the best laid plans of mice, men, and magical stallions often go awry, especially when an unhinged teenager is in charge. But plan things out the best you can and prepare for the adventure of a lifetime when Tiny Tina's Wonderlands arrives on March 25th. We'll have more guides and tips for all kinds of awesome Xbox titles in the months to come, so be sure to subscribe and ring the bell before you head off on your next quest. Bye!